the Hangover Podcast, and we have a special guest today. So starting off with our introductions, we have to do our returning guest, our panelist, our runner, track star, bike fiend, JP Grace. And we also have the infamous Mr. Gibbs, Max Gray.
Yes, sir.
And we have our special guest, as alluded to earlier, Peter Stratta, who is going to be an expert in the field of NASCAR racing. And, of course, myself, Rae Johnson. We've decided to pivot this show. We're still going to talk about sports, but we're not going to limit it to fantasy as we have in the past. So we're going to have a lot more broader conversations in that regard. I hope you enjoy this new format and the wonderful conversations and topics we're going to have in store for you guys today. So to start, we're going to first kick off. To get it? We're going to kick off with Max and JP talking about... ...
All-star starting lineups. So here is the list that Kendrick Perkins just put out, which I thought was really interesting. So for the Eastern Conference, it was Kyrie Irving, which so I'm just gonna name out the things. I'll give my opinion on them. Then Max can. Jaylen Brown as a shooting guard. Giannis as the first small forward. Kevin Durant as the second small forward, and then Joel Embiid as the big man. And then for the Western Conference, he has Steph Curry, Damian Lillard as the second point guard, LeBron James as the first front court player, Paul George as the second front court player, and then Nikola Jokic as the center. So what do you think about this list?
Sounds like they're all ballers. I like them all. That's a perfect list right there.
That's
a perfect list.
No, well,
there's a perfect list.
Here's my issue. I don't think Kyrie Irving deserves to be on there.
Okay, sure. I don't know his numbers, but yes, that sounds about right.
He hasn't played yet this season.
Okay, in that case, then no, he does not deserve. I did not know he was playing this year.
Yeah, I feel like Trae Young deserves it more. But one thing that ESPN did put out recently, I thought it was kind of berserk, was Draymond Green making the All-Star starting lineup. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
Because with Draymond Green, it's not about your numbers. You'll never get the flash numbers, but what he brings is more important than numbers.
That is true.
He brings attitude. He brings, momentum. He brings some sort of it factor that is a caliber of an all-star.
That is true, but
all-stars are not all about numbers, JP.
Here's the thing. And yeah, I agree with you. As a Knicks fan, I've seen Tyson Chandler go to the All-Star game, and he's averaging 12 points and 10 rebounds. Now, Draymond is good, but obviously if there was no fan voting, then I wouldn't put him over Paul George or Paul George or LeBron James right now. I feel like those are two players that he can't top at the moment.
Okay.
And sure, yeah, he can pass better, and he obviously has a great rebounding game, but I just don't see him above Paul George or LeBron James.
That's a fair assessment.
And then on the Eastern Conference side, I just see Trae Young better than Kyrie Irving right now.
Okay. I hate Trae Young, but that's all right.
You hate him, or you don't like him as a all-star starter?
I hate him because other people have overhyped him, and I am irritated by that. So therefore, I don't hate him. I hate everyone who likes him. But
why?
Because I'm tired about hearing about how good Trae Young is, even though he is basically a miniature, not as good a version of Steph Curry. He will be always in Steph Curry's shadow, and he will always be an all-star, but he's just going to be the inferior version of Steph Curry.
That is true, but that is true. He's no Steph Curry, but at the same time, Steph Curry isn't in the Eastern Conference, so he doesn't have to worry about that.
Yeah, exactly. Which it should even be more in the case of Trae Young, because Eastern Conference is an easier conference. So that even should be even less credit for Trae Young.
Yeah. Other than that,
because they're getting done in the worst conference.
Other than that, I don't disagree with this list at all.
Yeah.
Nikola Jokic deserves to be there, obviously. He's putting up some big numbers. Steph Curry just made history, so he deserves to be there.
Sounds about right.
LeBron James deserves to be there. It's his 19th season. As much as I don't like the guy, he's having a great season so far, even though the Lakers have struggled, which is unfortunate, but
not really unfortunate, but yeah.
Paul George is someone who I feel like has been silent but deadly this year.
Sounds about right.
And then on the Eastern Conference side, Jaylen Brown is pretty good. He's really stepped up for me fantasy-wise, and he's one of the better shooting guards, small forwards in the NBA. Giannis obviously deserves to be there. He's in the MVP race this year. Kevin Durant deserves to be there. And then Joel Embiid. So I agree with this list that Kendrick Perkins put out, but I don't agree with the people who are saying Draymond deserves to be an all-star starter.
Okay. Your opinion. Your opinion's wrong, but it's your opinion.
He's a great
Your opinion's wrong, but it's
I can
okay.
see the NBA coach.
Your opinion's wrong, but it's duly noted.
I can see him being a backup because we've seen players like, as I mentioned, Tyson Chandler and
better player than Tyson Chandler.
Kyle Kyle Korver and Tyson Chandler make it in the Eastern Conference in the past. So it's definitely possible that the coaches will vote him in as a backup.
He will be a backup.
Yeah, he probably will, which will be interesting because he's not that averaging double digits in anything. But as you said, he puts up numbers.
He's an all-star player.
Yeah. So I agree
what
that
his numbers are. He's an all-star player.
Yeah, I agree with you that he'll be a back. I'll agree with you that he will be an all-star. In the league. But I don't think he deserves to be a starter as an all-star. And then one more thing before we go into NASCAR. What did you think about the Antonio Brown situation?
Not surprised. Like let's be honest here. We've seen this time and again. He gets upset. It didn't work out in Las Vegas. It now doesn't look like it's going to work out there because they eventually released him.
Yeah.
But, you can't lead the field in the middle of a game, be upset, and then JP's flipping him off, and then basically leave the game and expect to be on the team. So he's off the team. His career's done, and we will never hear from him again.
You think his career is done?
Yeah.
So you think he's in retirement mode now?
He's not in retirement home, but I would like to see who's
not home.
I said that. I said he's in retirement mode.
Oh, I thought you said retirement home.
No, he should be in a retirement home, but he should be in retirement mode. But we'll see. In the sense of he's not gonna be in retirement mode, but everyone else will be in retirement mode.
Okay, so yeah, so you can't see
him. There's no one gonna sign him.
So you don't think any lower tier teams are gonna sign him?
Nope.
Really?
No, yeah.
You can't see I'm not saying this because I'm a Giants fan, because I don't want that team drama, but you can't see a struggling team like them.
Well, why would you sign him if you're nowhere close to a championship? That's the problem I have. You wouldn't take on that pay that guy that much money and deal with his antics if you're not gonna win a championship.
Okay.
You're not going
that's
to.
Just what I wanted to hear your input, but
you're not going to do that. You would have to be you have to be a NFL championship caliber team to deal with his antics.
That is a fair point.
Yeah, and I don't think his loss will affect the Buccaneers.
They have so many weapons. He's going to not be missed.
Yeah, he won't be missed. I still see them as going to the Super Bowl.
They got Godwin. They got Gronk. They got Mike Evans.
Right.
They got Fournette. They have the most talent around their quarterback, and I actually believe Brady's a capable quarterback. I don't think he is what he was. But that's all you need with that type of supporting cast, which was what you need. So they're still going to be there at the end of the year.
Yeah. And before we go back to Rae, I just want to say congrats on getting Klay Thompson back.
Yeah, it's going to be a good day.
Now, I think he'll come back, and I think that'll be the key to the Warriors getting into the finals.
We're going to win a chip.
Over the Suns.
We already won a chip. We're going to go to win a chip. It's going to be all good.
Yeah, we'll see.
We're
Who knows, man?
Just Murray moke me in. Just Murray put me in, man.
Who knows, man? Maybe KD will come around. But anyway,
No.
let's transfer it back over to Rae.
Thanks, guys. That was very interesting to hear, and I would like to make one quick remark about the Antonio Brown situation. Even though I did just learn through Max and JP what had transpired, I do think Max has a point about how talent can only get you so far. Even if he was playing his absolute best, what happens outside the field is just as important as on it, and you can only get away with so many things that you do as to being arrested for like being drunk and disorderly and things like that just cause havoc and doesn't look good for the team. There's only so much of that you can do and get away with before people just won't draft you or want to pick you for their team.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that was kind of stupid for him to do, all those text messages and stuff. I feel like that was stupid for him to do since he's on a team right now with the Buccaneers, a team that's very successful and is going to make it to the Super Bowl thanks to Tom Brady. So I think that was a stupid, foolish move for him to do.
Yeah, money can only get you so much far. It's the reputation that matters the most.
Yeah.
So now to transition to a bit lighter of a topic. Let's go the speedster route of asking Peter questions about NASCAR. Woo!
This is the reason why I showed up today.
All right. So, Peter, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course, and we're very honored that you're our first guest, and we know you're very insightful with NASCAR. As I've known you for quite a while now, I know that part of the reason you're into NASCAR as to being part of it is so you can also pursue interviewing, because you interview lots of racers, and I'm sure there's fond stories of that.
Oh, of course.
So what was probably, to kick this off, the hardest interview to get as far as maybe time or access?
Not sure if there's been one that's been hard to get just because NASCAR is so great with access for media members, whether that's me or whether that's Fox, NBC, or ESPN, the big dogs at networks on TV or radio. So I've been incredibly blessed as a college student to interview guys and girls who I quite literally idolized as a kid, like Jeff Gordon, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Tony Stewart, Jimmy Johnson. The list goes on and on. I've even made Kyle Busch mad a few times, which I think everyone in media does eventually. So just...
Yeah, that's incredible. That's what I would like to do if I were to go in the sports media with the NBA.
Right. I think probably if I had to choose one, Kyle Busch has been tough just because you got to approach interviewing with him a certain way. You can't piss him off or he'll give you really bad quotes. But otherwise, I've had nothing but positive experiences interviewing drivers.
I don't know why, but as soon as you said that about Kyle Busch, or any racer for that matter, that just, you can tell they don't really want to be pestered too much with questions. I just envisioned him just hopping back in the car. It's like, okay, I'm getting out of here.
That's right. He does usually storm off after interviews, after talking to us for like 2 minutes.
I guess the saying they have is true about time is money.
Exactly.
To further expand upon your NASCAR experience, what was a race that you witnessed, whether it was for recording's sake, for maybe someone you were working for, or just for your own resume builder, if you will, your portfolio? What was a race that was very memorable to you that you couldn't believe how it ended up?
Has to be the fall Martinsville race the past couple of years, because that race is in the playoffs and it just means so much in terms of the championship with this winner move on, winning your in playoff system, and guys will just give it their all. They'll move someone out of the way in the last corner at the last lap to get that win at Martinsville, the oldest, shortest, most historic racetrack. And whether it's Denny Hamlin versus Joey Logano, or Denny Hamlin versus Chase Elliott, or Denny Hamlin versus Alex Bowman, or Kyle Busch versus Martin Truex, you name it, Matt Kenseth, Joey Logano. There have been so many highlight reel moments over the past just 5 years at Martinsville Speedway in October to make or break driver seasons. And I've been lucky enough to be there for all of them except 2020 because of the pandemic. And that's just my favorite race of the year every year. And I always leave that track satisfied that I saw a great race with plenty of action, plenty of drama, and plenty of storylines.
Well, I'm sure from just that brief description that's probably true. Since you also hobby in golf like I do, would you say it would be a fair comparison that Martinsville race is kind of like pro-am tournaments such as the Rex Hospital Open here in North Carolina?
Absolutely, yeah.
Cool. So another question I have is, what inspired you to pursue the love and admiration and passion that you have for NASCAR in the first place, even before being a graduate? Now you're doing a master's program to further your study with techniques to build your reputation in the community.
I love and hate telling this story, but my passion for NASCAR started with Lightning McQueen. It started with seeing the Cars movie in theaters back years ago, I think 2007 when it came out. That was the first movie I went back and saw multiple times in theaters. I saw it 3 times that summer when I was, I guess, 9 years old, and was just fell in love immediately with the movie, the storylines, all the characters, and I realized not long after, this is real. There's like actual racing, and I got hooked not long after.
Ladies and gentlemen, he was that kid.
I was that kid.
That is really a cute story, though. It's so funny the things that influence you as a kid, whether it's such as Peter, like a movie, or even people you look up to, you see on TV in general, that can inspire you to pursue the career path you want to take. I have another question for you. So, for anyone who's getting into the NASCAR community, what is something you wish someone told you that you didn't expect to be the case?
Just keep digging. It's never about clicks or how many views you get or whatever. It's just about your dedication and showing up repeatedly, race after race, showing that you're dedicated to this, showing that you're willing to put in the time and effort for money to eventually come out on the other side of it. It may take a while to get established, but it's all worth it in the end.
And it sounds like for you it definitely has been, because I'm sure you have plenty of stories to recount on wonderful experiences that some people may not even get in their lifetime with what they want to pursue in life.
Absolutely. In just over a month, the season kicks off with the Daytona 500, and I'll be lucky enough to be down there in Florida as media, covering all the action and hopefully interviewing the winner of the Daytona 500.
That sounds great. I have high hopes for you that you probably will. And you better keep us updated on how that goes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. Congrats.
Other than the Daytona 500, is there another race? And even, I'm probably not going to give you options if I keep limiting them, but even if Martinsville, excluding that, what is a race you're really looking forward to?
The next race, which is the Clash at the Los Angeles Coliseum. They're building a temporary racetrack inside a football field in Los Angeles, and they're going to race there the week before the Super Bowl. It's something that NASCAR has never done before, and it'll be in Los Angeles, the center of all things media, all things TV, and with everyone already in town for the Super Bowl, it's something to serve as a lead-in event for the Super Bowl, and it's going to be craziness. It's going to be a short track, beating and banging, guys moving each other out of the way. No one knows what'll happen, and that's what's awesome about it. It'll be craziness for sure. That's for certain, and I'm looking forward to it. It's coming up February 6th on Fox.
That sounded like an ad promotion at the very end. But I am amazed at how fun that sounds and how I'm kind of jealous I can't be there myself.
Sadly, I
like
won't be there
time.
either. Getting out to Los Angeles is quite expensive and won't be making the trek for that race.
See, this is where you use your influence and just provoke someone to give you a ticket for free.
I wish I had that much power, but no, not yet.
Maybe one day, you never know.
Maybe, yeah.
To continue on with this talk of NASCAR, I'm sure this is probably a hard question for you because I'm sure you appreciate racers for their unique and different qualities and how they approach the racing game. But if you had to pick one, who would be your favorite?
My favorite as a child was always Tony Stewart. I loved how he always just took no prisoners on the racetrack. He always gave his 110%. He always gave you his honest opinion, whether he was pissed off, happy, or whatever. And just his driving style, his aggressive nature, his willingness to wreck you, cuss you, spin you out, or laugh with you after the race. Just he's had so many great stories like that, so many great moments, and I just always thought he was hilarious. That's why I liked him so much.
That's really cool. And you said since you were a kid, about how old were you when you started to admire him?
Probably 9, 10, 11 years old, somewhere in there.
Nice. And I probably should have prefaced that you didn't have to answer. Like, if you felt uncomfortable, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, all good.
Okay, cool. And I don't know why, when you were reading out the description of his personality. Literally, it popped into my head. That sounds a lot like Max.
Wow.
It is what it is.
And my final question for you about NASCAR for this segment of the podcast is, for anyone who wants to be an interviewer like yourself for NASCAR, what is a tidbit of advice that you would give them when pursuing this?
You just got to make the right connections. People in NASCAR are more than willing to help out people trying to break into the sport, and it's better to be told no than to never ask and not have a chance at either going to a race or getting an interview or trying to get your foot in the door in this industry.
That is very sound advice. I do account being raised with the mindset that you're guaranteed to not get anything if you don't even ask.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's better to be told no than to never ask and never have a shot to begin with.
Those are very wise words from Peter. And now we'll transition to the last part of this podcast.
So the Tennessee Titans just made the playoffs, Max. What do you think about that?
Yeah, they're good. You know, they didn't just make they already clinched. The thing is, they already clinched the playoffs. But thing is, with the win today, because they won today.
Yeah,
they won today.
that's what
They
I'm
got the
referring to.
first round bye, so that's key. So there's only the new playoff system this year is 7. They expanded to 7 teams, which means essentially only one team gets the first round bye per conference, and that's what they were able to clinch. So they already clinched the playoff spot because they won the division, but now they were able to clinch the number 1 overall seed with the current 2 seed just lost to the Jaguars.
Yeah, Julio Jones just stepped up for them.
They just won.
Yeah, 26-11.
Wow, nice.
So they were able to get the top seed. So now, with this going in, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be an interesting race because right now Baltimore and the Steelers are both heading to overtime right now, and this is gonna be a big monster game because these guys are both looking in and tapping on and chasing the Raiders for that last playoff spot.
I happened to look over at the monitor you're watching for this information, Max, and I noticed there were 4 division leaders. Of those leaders, who do you anticipate will be the farthest in advancement?
I probably the Cincinnati Bengals have been a good surprise this year. I think I would put my money on probably the Chiefs or the Titans this year.
Yeah, I would agree.
But, like, I kind of want the Cincinnati Bengals to go far just because of that franchise and its unluckiness during the playoffs. But those are probably the 2 top dogs in the conference as of right now. Also, the Bills, if they win the division this year, would be a definitely a threat because they're right now going to battle the Patriots in the last week of the season for the division crown. So it's really going to be there's a lot of good division winners this year. I think it's going to be a great AFC playoffs.
Yeah, Josh Allen's been having a decent season.
Oh, yeah, he's having a good year.
No, 34 touchdowns, tied for 7th, 15 interceptions, 4,168 yards. So so I think that the Bills are going to be an interesting team to watch, I feel like.
Oh, yeah, I think they're one of the most talented teams in the NFL.
Speaking of talented teams, it may be too soon to tell, just simply because the divisions are being compiled as to leaders and so forth. I mean, Max did just mention that a couple are in overtime as to games being played currently.
Yes.
But if you had to make a bold prediction, who do you anticipate being the last 2 teams to appear in the Super Bowl?
Ooh.
That's a good question.
That's a good question. I need to look at this. I need to look at the NFL picture right now. See, because I think there's talented teams, but as it matters, it matters who you match up with in the first round, because that could be a critical in how you are able to see. So as of right now, which would be a good, you got the Chiefs right now would be playing the Raiders for the first wild card spot. The Raiders have not clinched their playoff spot. They can do that tonight, but that's a divisional game. that could be intriguing to watch. And it will all differ on how you're able to, how they are able to go through the process, because these are gonna be two guys who have already played each other twice this year, and if you play them a third time, it's gonna be it's a chess match. You already know what they're playing. You already know their system.
What about you, JP? Do you agree or do you have a different opinion?
Oh yeah, I agree with Max's point there. The wild card picture for the NFL is going to be really interesting this year. Obviously, I want to see. I feel like Las Vegas is an interesting team, and I would like to see them win that game tonight. Yeah, so I kind of agree with Max there.
And to transition and pivot a bit to a different sport, since JP, when we have talked about fantasy leagues in the past, your main focus was basketball. Again, it may be too soon to tell, but who do you think will go really far and potentially even win when it comes down to March Madness matchups?
Are you talking about March Madness like college basketball or NBA?
Whichever one you tend to watch the most.
So for the NBA, one team that I'd really like to watch a lot is Chicago. Chicago, who is the first seed right now in the Eastern Conference. DeMar DeRozan, who is having his best season since he was on the Raptors, has been playing huge. He's averaging 26.5 points, and they've also had Lonzo Ball, who has came up clutch for them, averaging 5 assists per game and leading that offense as a point guard. So I think they'll be interesting. I don't know how long they're going to be able to hold off the Nets for, but they've been the most fun team to watch in the NBA right now. In terms of, obviously we have halfway through the season left. The All-Star game hasn't happened. In terms of who I think will step it up, and towards the end of the season will be Milwaukee. They've had kind of a slow start, but Giannis Antetokounmpo still had been putting MVP numbers up, but it's kind of early in the season to tell, because you never know. There could be teams like the Hawks who can go on hot streaks and get back into the play-in position. There are teams like New York as well who can go back into the playing position. In terms of the play-in, right now they have the Raptors at the 7th seed, Charlotte at the 8th seed, Washington at the 10th seed. If the season were to end today, I would have to go with probably go with the Raptors to win the play-in tournament and get that final seed where they would play Chicago. Yeah, I would think Toronto would win, but it's always up in the air right now. In terms of the Western Conference, Phoenix is above Golden State, which I don't think will last very long now since Klay Thompson is coming back, and we're gonna get to see the Splash Bros and Draymond Green play together for the first time in a while. And obviously, it seems like the Lakers, who had struggles, I don't know what's gonna happen with them. LeBron James has stepped up, though, in year 19 of his career, which is great. No, he's slowly catching up to Michael Jordan, I feel like, in terms of the greatest of all time discussion. But again, yeah, you have teams who can come who can come into the next half of the season coming on strong, even like Denver, Portland, Los Angeles. So I think it's up in the air who can win, who can make it to make it far this year. My favorite team to watch, though, would definitely be the Bulls. They've been the most interesting.
And I have one final question for everyone here today. Who is an athlete in your respective sports of expertise, if you will, that whether it's really early in the season and it can easily change to be someone else, or however the situation may be, that has surprised you with how well they've performed?
Well, obviously, as I just said, DeMar DeRozan has been one of my favorite players to watch. He's kind of had a redemption year after being with that Spurs team where he didn't quite fit into the lineup. But as I said, I think he'll be an all-star starter. And LeBron James has also just been fun to watch these past couple of games. The Lakers did not have a good start to the season, and I think that was due to Russell Westbrook. But now with LeBron leading that charge, I feel like the Lakers are going to make a big push. I don't think they'll win the West with the way Curry is playing right now. I don't think they'll make it to the finals. And they have Klay Thompson back as well. So LeBron James, though, year 19, I mean, there's not many people who could do what he's doing right now. So he and DeMar DeRozan, I feel like, are the most entertaining players to watch.
And what about you, Peter? Who would you say is a racer that, despite how early it may be in the season, or even since it hasn't quite kicked off yet from last season, that surprised you?
Has to be Kyle Larson. He came into Hendrick Motorsports last season, which is the best team in all of racing, and he won 10 races, which hasn't been seen since 2007. Obviously won the championship by winning the last race at Phoenix, and he could have easily won another 10. Just he was that good all season long, and I'm really excited to see how he is in his title defense here and see if he can go back-to-back, make the championship four again in Phoenix, potentially win more than 10 races, and potentially start a dynasty at Hendrick like we've seen with Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson.
Well, both of you have had impressive answers as to how far your respective athletes have come that you've mentioned. And we'll end this question with Max and who you think has surprised you.
That's a good one because we're approaching this is the last week of the regular season when it comes to NFL football. And when we look at like non-quarterbacks who can win the MVP, hands below, it's going to be Jonathan Taylor, the running back for the Indianapolis Colts. He has been unstoppable when it comes to when he's been on the floor and defense and running over defenses and getting into the end zone and accumulating almost as good as a season you could see as a running back who could win an NFL MVP. The thing is, like, not a lot of running backs are able to win NFL MVP, but according to how he's been doing this season, he could be one of the first ones in a while to be able to win an NFL MVP in his specific position.
Well, that seems like a good answer and a great way to round out this episode of the Hangover Sports podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in and for supporting us thus far. We can't wait to continue to bring more insight in sports to you as our season progresses with these episodes. And we hope you're looking forward to each of these various sports seasons as much as we are. Have a wonderful week, and I hope you're not losing too much money with who you've bet on. Goodbye.